informal. I think that got a little lost. Do a little bit of an overview of like formal logic, or essentially, deductive, inductive, necessary, inferences. Those are all kind of interchangeable.
So I wasn't here last week.
I wasn't either.
Yeah, that's the general overview. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm gonna go through. And then I want to play games.
Yes.
Okay.
We have time for all this?
So yeah, the first half I'm just gonna kind of run through relatively quickly because I want to play the games more than I want to talk about statements and shit. Okay, so yeah, for anybody who wasn't here, I guess what I'll do is this. Last time we just did informal fallacies, and so that's I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so the idea of logic is just evaluating arguments. An argument is a group of statements, right? You have a premise, right? And it's a statement, a statement, a statement, all of which we say leads to a conclusion, right? So here's our evidence, and here's our claim. Are you with me so far? Okay. There are essentially two kinds of logic. There's one really based on form, formal logic, so it's not like formal like a top hat and your pinky out, it's formal like you're looking at the actual structure. So with formal, which I'll kind of dive into today, you have, and this is where I think we got kind of lost last time, you don't have anything where you're evaluating the truth or falsity of a statement, you're focusing on the validity or the invalidity of a form. That's all. With informal or inferential, inductive logic, again, those are all pretty much the same. You're assessing, you have a group of statements basically, and they're either true or they're false or they're somewhere in between. Okay? And your goal in informal is to evaluate the truth of that statement. Okay? So you either have premises that support the conclusion really, really well, or you have premises that don't support the conclusion at all.
So these are just different avenues you can take to assess what's been being said.
Essentially, yeah, the goal of logic is to evaluate an argument, right? Insofar as something is true, we're much more like we want to believe things that are true more than we want to believe things that are false. Often if we believe things to be true that are false, things don't go very well for us, right? For instance, car brakes, or, medicine. What happened in Ohio? Okay, these infrastructures are really well. They're well built, they're this, they're that.
What happened in Ohio?
The derailment for Norfolk Southern.
Oh,
So now there's a bunch of what is it, phthalates and latex in the Delaware River. Great stuff.
I saw Philadelphia. So
Yeah, Philadelphia is shut down. So that's part of the importance, right? Is you want to be able to assess and evaluate arguments being told to you for the truth value. So with informal logic, you're looking at things like this. Informal logic asks you to know something about what's being said, right? Like you need to know something about what's being claimed. If you're driving a car and you hear the brakes squeak, or you kind of pull a tug and somebody else tells you, oh no, they're fine. Knowledge that that's not normal, you have an implicit kind of knowledge and awareness, tells you that that's probably a false statement and you shouldn't follow that conclusion that the car is fine, right? So this is something we do all the time. What I did last
Was it different than that one?
The form is, it's not about the truth statement. So I could say, I don't know, give me an all statement.
Are you talking more about the notation of logic at that point?
This is more like notation.
Yeah.
Part of what I was talking to Kim about before y'all got here, I think I trailed off, But part of the value that I see here is it really helps structure an argument in a way that's much more coherent.
Right, and you can do it in like shorthand, so it's easier to kind of
Yes.
absorb all the time. Did you deliver that at all?
I a little bit. We
Yeah.
kind of got lost in the sauce.
Gotcha.
So I'm just trying to just make a very distinct difference
Right.
between formal and informal, and I'll go into the form.
The formal thing that might be useful for you, your question, is that formal is almost like breaking it into like an equation, like as opposed to like an actual like inferential argument or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just what we did last time was looked at fallacies that informal logic can hold, and it's just stuff like the red herring. I mean, it's just stuff that we all know, but it's if you're able to identify an issue and also the solution to, like, identify a fallacy, and the solution to a fallacy, I think we're much better able to evaluate an argument, hold one another in check, and form our own coherent arguments as well.
Yeah.
So that was the importance. Yeah, that's all. That's it. That to me is the benefit of logic, or the study of it. Any questions so far? Neat. Gus, I'm really loving the hat. I also really like the variety that's been brought here. Okay, so yeah. And with fallacies, I mean, being aware of the fallacy present in an argument is a precondition for being able to accurately assess it. Okay. Here's a question: what aren't arguments?
What aren't
What are not? What is not an argument? Right? If an argument is a group of statements leading to a claim, everything's an argument.
things that contradict?
Things that contradict, such as just statements.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if I say the sky is blue and you say the sky is red, that's not an argument. Those are just statements.
Or if you just say, the same person says, well, the sky's blue, but, the sky's red. I don't know. I mean, you'd be like, no.
Sure, yeah. Not an argument is just a statement, no conclusion, no assessment, no evaluation, no proof of evidence.
Observation, I guess.
An observation. Yep. Also just a statement, right? You're
Statement.
not making a claim.
Oh, okay.
A warning is not an argument. Something very popular here. It starts with an O. An opinion
Obviously.
is not an argument. So.
If it's stated clearly as an opinion, that is, I believe.
Right, and that's part of the goal, is how do we distinguish between, well, here's what I think. There's a difference, right, between saying, here's what I think, and why do you think that? So if somebody just says, here's what I think, here's my opinion, that's not an argument. But if I'm pressed, and somebody asks me why, and I give you a set of statements that lead to a conclusion or a claim, that's an argument that can be evaluated.
Well,
And then I might be forced to
Why
evaluate
isn't
my
that an
opinion.
argument?
An
Because
opinion?
you have a set of statements and you're making a claim from it, even if it's something that may be in error.
My
Is this-
reasoning
there's no
to
premise.
My reasoning to the opinion is the argument. But me just stating,
Okay.
I think
Right.
Blundstones are great shoes,
Right.
that's an opinion. If you press me on it and ask, well, why do you think that? And I'll give you
Right.
a set of statements, I'll give you an argument. So that's the difference.
But isn't that inferred though from the opinion?
It's like you're saying all statements are arguments. I mean, like.
Can you give an
It's
example?
like-
Yeah.
Well, what I mean is like the shoes that you're talking about, like in expressing that opinion, it's implied that you have reasons for that would be those quote statements,
Sure,
and just because you haven't voiced them at that moment doesn't mean they don't exist.
sure.
So it's still an argument, perhaps an incomplete one.
Well, it
I
could
would
be.
press you on that. It could be, it could be an argument if presented, because you can't assume the reasons. You can't assume all of my statements that lead to it.
No, what I mean is that I'm assuming that they have reasons, even if
Sure.
even if they're inaccurate. What I'm getting at is, why does that make a difference?
Well, because you're assuming they have an argument.
Right.
Which you're probably right most of the time if they're pressed, like you say.
Right.
But
And
that assumption isn't within the statement of the opinion.
Sure.
So the holding of the opinion, there's an argument to it, but the statement is, if you just state an opinion, you haven't spoken an argument.
What about if you
is
said, I
that
believe,
what you're going for, Hannah?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
I've long
I guess-
ago, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, a lot of times we state things that maybe we never actually thought
Mhm.
about or have an argument for, if we just state it, like, you know.
Sure, but I mean, that's, in and of itself is, I guess I'm having trouble
You
with
may
the
always have an
distinction.
argument,
that
like, you may
you're
have
making.
always thought about
Yeah.
why you like or don't like,
Right.
like, you may be analytical, constantly evaluating, but
Right.
I can imagine someone who makes a statement and actually has never formalized any argument or.
But holding an opinion, even if you haven't thought about it, is still a reason for having that opinion.
Well, what I
Not
want
always.
to, what I want to,
Cults and.
what I want to point out the
Right.
importance there too.
Human,
Oh, I just had it.
When it comes to
God,
spices.
it is a beautiful day outside. I liked here, and it is
Depends who we're talking to, 'cause
gorgeous.
that's my father
By the way,
arguments.
before I forget, there is music on the mountain today from 2 to 4 up on Mill Mountain at the Nature Center.
Aw.
So it's just a jam session.
I wish I could go. I'm teaching yoga.
How did you know that?
I ran into the
It's
woman
good
who
stuff.
runs it. I love that.
Ow.
Yeah. I ran into the gal who runs it. She's a friend of mine.
Oh, cool.
So, FYI. And swim dancing's Thursday. I might
Yes.
be late to that.
Aw.
That's my last pottery
I thought
class,
it was
but
Tuesday.
it's Thursday.
Thursday.
I believe it's on my
You have
calendar.
to-
I'll send the
you have to
link.
know how to swing dance.
See, I
You do not- there's a
Is
lesson?
that an argument?
I think I'll miss the lesson, but I'll probably show up for the rest of it.
I believe it's Tuesday. Is that an argument?
That's a statement.
That's a
A
statement.
statement of belief. Well, it's I mean,
Oh, they
belief
moved
for.
it.
Oh, was it on a Tuesday?
Yeah, it was, but it's on Thursday now.
Is that an argument?
It's a statement based on the Facebook thing.
That's an
So statements, opinions.
With an opinion, right? An opinion is usually drawn from a conclusion or a claim.
Right.
And what we don't want to misstep is assuming what the premises are, right? Or say that a conclusion itself is the argument. It's missing half of.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Does that help?
No, yeah,
Maybe
it
click
did.
a little more. Okay. So opinions, not arguments. Other things, advice is not an argument, right? Is an explanation an argument?
I feel like we all like want to like always assess things. I feel like everything is like yes, yes. But
Would it depend on how the explanation is presented for it to be an argument? Like if you explain something as, this is true because this thing has an argument, if you simply say it as,
Well, so that's the argument. You're assessing the truth value of it. If I say the sky is blue, why is the sky blue? Because it reflects.
like, it diffracts light.
Yeah.
Right. The sky is blue because it refracts
Yeah.
light.
red, yellow.
Yeah.
That's an explanation, right? There's there's 2 parts to an explanation. There's the thing being explained and the vehicle in which it's explained,
Right.
right? So the sky being blue because is not evidence and a conclusion, even though it has that signifying word because, which is just different. Like there's not evidence and I'm inferring a conclusion. There's a direct.
It's not an if-then statement, it's a therefore statement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wait, so what you're saying is, if we say the sky is blue because the atmosphere refracts the light, that's not an argument, but if we say the atmosphere refracts the light, and therefore the sky is blue,
Even if you say if the atmosphere reflects the light or refracts
Sure.
the light,
then it's
then the
blue.
sky is blue, that's still a statement. It's a conditional, but it's not necessarily an argument.
If light travels through the atmosphere and the atmosphere scatters the light into blue, then the sky is blue, isn't an argument?
I had trouble following that.
It's a conditional statement.
So then what,
And explanations are
are those
tricky.
not premises though?
Right, yeah, because you're not talking about like if the light diffracts in the sky. You're saying that this thing happens,
Okay.
and therefore this is why we perceive it as such. There's no inherent question to, or the premise is not a premise; it's simply an explanation.
And I wanted to highlight that because I think we could get lost in the soup there if somebody's giving us an explanation and we mistake it as like, well, we can press this, but that's something that we know, right?
But you can
We
also
know
have
the
an
reasons
incorrect explanation, so you can press that.
Yeah, there's stuff that's worth investigating, and that's what I mean about being vigilant or being able to really dissect what you should be pressing. So those are things that are not arguments, essentially. Okay, so yeah, so I already kind of went over. Can you guys see this very well?
Not really, but
Okay, maybe I'll use this one. Maybe I should finally just get some of my own.
You can have these.
These ones?
Haven't used them in like 3 years.
Oh, well, there you
Hopefully they
go.
still work.
Great. I feel like we should just hide them in one of the drawers,
do it.
and then we'll just always have them here.
Like take them.
Okay, so I'm just gonna run through. Yeah, it's a good thought. What do I want to do?
Well, this, or you got,
Oh, perfect. Is it our first our glove? Our glove.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to iterate just again. So we have when you're inferring an argument or informal logic, you have true or false statements, and you're trying to evaluate that, right? With formal logic, you either have valid or you have invalid. So this is where you need to know something about what's being said, some kind of prior knowledge in order to assess it, or at least go do the research, right? And this is what I think is most important for our purposes. But form, the actual form and structure too, like I said, I'm just repeating myself, which I'll get into this more today. This structured way of premise, conclusion, and the evaluation of it, to me, it really helps build a more astute way of like looking at what people are claiming. It helps us build better or communicate our arguments better. I think that we gather ourselves a little bit better in this informal, more colloquial structure when we're making an argument, if we can clearly assess and ascertain, here is my evidence, here's my conclusion. Before I really dig into that, does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns? Okay. Thanks for letting me nerd out for the second week in a row.
Thank you for being our teacher to the other nerds.
Is this making more sense or is it the same?
Are you
From
referring
last
to
week.
last week? It made sense last week.
Okay.
I don't think I was understood, but.
Okay, so form, like I said, formal logic is about the form. It's not about it being better or top-hatted. But you're looking at the structure of an argument. So most things can get reduced down to letters and symbols, essentially. So there's this one I heard the other day. All men are mortal, right? Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal, right? What you're looking for, you're trying to distribute what's called the middle. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself there. But this is a conclusion that we can reasonably come to. What we're looking for, even though these are true statements, if we want to evaluate their content, we're looking at the structure of the argument, right? What would be invalid would be to say, all men are mortal. Socrates is mortal, right? Therefore, Socrates is a man. It's still true, right? If we're looking at its content, but the structure of the argument is not valid. Any idea as to why?
I remember taking this in college.
Because when you apply it to all men,
It helps if you write it out as an equation, but
Yeah.
I remember, like, so
It's kind of like the all squares are rectangles, not all rectangles are squares.
yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
The structure's off, you can't infer that because they're one-way streets. All men are mortal isn't something that can go either directions. All men are mortal. Socrates is mortal. There's no statement suggesting Socrates is a man.
Exactly.
Socrates could be a mortal bunny rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one way.
Yeah.
Because they're therefore statements.
Yeah. So these might all be true, right? These are true statements on a true conclusion, but the form is invalid. To what Ben is saying, you can do, we did this last week, just with these statements, let's do all men, R-O, S, is this what I'm gonna do? Yeah. Wait a second.
Can I try my hand on
Yeah. Sure. I was.
it? I'm remembering my I think. So yeah, it's A therefore M and S equals, or not equals, but S is included in M, therefore S.
Well, what we
therefore
can
M.
say,
Yeah.
right, is, and I was just gonna break it down
Yeah.
even further. S is M. S is, or you would say, all M are mortal, S is M, S, Socrates is mortal.
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting
Yeah,
at?
essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so this is just a way, in formal logic, like you just break it down from the full statements to certain symbols like this. And right now, these are just statements, and you can gather the conclusion purely from the form.
And what you're talking about with the one-way thing is you can have ones where it's notated as the arrow goes both ways. And so it's like they both support each other, and thus it can go back. But the statement on the right doesn't have that. So,
Right.
yeah.
This is, all men are mortal. S is, and actually, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. S is M. Hunter picked up on this really quick. If you guys see the structure distributed here and that difference, this is usually, this is what's called an undistributed middle. But when you see these two conclusions, you can't draw back from one to the other. There's no link between them.
it's as if the top part of the formula is tracing the steps of the logic, and the bottom, the conclusion is just a direct.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like if you can make that vertical thing linear,
Yeah.
then it works. You know,
Yeah.
S to M to more, you can't get M to more, S to more.
And that's why the conclusion follows the beginning. So.
Groovy.
So, are we kind of getting the idea here? Okay. I feel like I want to give some more examples, but I want to get into more compound and like complex statements.
Compound.
Okay. Yay. Nerd stuff.
That thing doesn't work very well, does it?
It's better than, I have this, but we really need the glove, is what I'm saying.
My pens have the thing on the end. I don't know if that.
Little.
This works the best.
I think this whiteboard
Could be better.
Yeah.
This actually works quite well. It's getting it very clean.
Probably just needs a cleaning, yeah.
Yeah.
And polishing. Oh, hey, look, wow, incredible.
A glove?
Wow.
Oh.
digging, keep digging.
Yeah.
You're gonna find some gold in there.
Also,
Other people
markers.
have the
Yes, don't work
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
We're late to the draw.
Yeah.
Wow, money.
Really?
Monopoly money?
No.
Alright, somebody give me an if then, please.
If you open up drawers, then you will find money.
Great. I'm going to do two things. Yeah, one, I'm going to break down the actual symbols involved, and then some common forms. So, with an if then, if you open up drawers, then you'll find money, right? What did Hunter do?
He opened a drawer.
What happened?
He found money.
Right. So the symbols that you can use here, just an if then, is usually going to be what's called horseshoe. So if, so to break this down, if D, then money. D, therefore, right. That's a really common argument form called what's called modus ponens. It's Latin for what is Latin? The pursuit of
The
an
way?
argument?
Modus is way, I think.
I saw it earlier today.
Or literally mode.
Yeah.
What's the second? Appeal?
Ponens.
Maybe I saw it in another book. Was
Possession.
I reading?
Hey, that's like a Google.
Yeah,
Ask
what does Google
ChatGPT.
say?
Yes, do the chat.
ChatGPT, teach me logic.
You know, I bet you.
Ah,
I'm gonna skip the.
the human no.
I've gone to the dark side.
The study of feet.
I mean, I
ChatGPT.
look weird stuff up, so.
Latin for method of putting by placing.
Yeah.
Comments, okay.
Oops. What did I just kick? The.
Implication,
Right.
elimination, or affirming the antecedent.
So, yeah, before I get too far ahead, all these statements, these conditionals, are going to have the antecedent and the consequent for a conditional statement. And if is a conditional, right? So modus ponens is a pretty common argument form. You have and, right? So we could say it's cold and sunny outside. Usually that's illustrated by just a dot. You have disjunctive statements, either or, right? Either you get me coffee or or break into your car, right? And then there are other, biconditionals, if and only if.
I like the arrow back and forth. I like this. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a lot.
You asked ChatGPT.
Yeah, we
Is
just.
there
What did it say?
either but not both? Is there a symbol
If
for
and
that?
only, either but not both. Either or.
So that would be like, mutually
Would that not
exclusive
satisfy
things.
the? Yeah, it's exclusive, right? It's the wedge. So those are just like really common symbols that you'd see in a lot of this. If you guys want to keep doing this, or if any of you guys want to get together and nerd out elsewhere, there are tons of problems that you can do and all sorts of fun stuff.
Isn't therefore like the triple dots?
Oh yeah, like the conclusion. Therefore, yeah. Oh, and then the not, right? Like, it's not the case that it's warm outside, right? Would be what's called a tilde. So that's a negating principle. Yeah. Yeah. So, for example,
You could also use the tilde though if you said like, if you open a drawer, you don't find money.
Yeah, so
Yes.
exactly. So it's the case that if he opens the drawer, he'll find money.
Right.
He opened the drawer, he found money. If it's the case that if you open the drawer, you find money, you don't open the drawer, therefore you don't find money.
Yeah.
Which is not.
Wait, that's not,
It's a
that's
fallacy
false.
that we're invalid or something.
Yes. What's wrong with it?
Same as last one.
How do you mean?
Well, it doesn't follow.
Why?
Okay,
You're trying to use it
there's
backwards.
there's no precedent for not opening the drawer.
What do you mean?
Precedent's not the right word. What's the
Preceding statement?
premise? There's no premise for not opening the drawer.
But
You
no,
open the drawer, you find
Is there any
money.
premise?
but in formal logic like this, the opening the drawer causes cash. That's assumed to be true within the
Right.
thing. And so because the not true statement is, therefore you have the not true conclusion.
Well,
Like it's not about premise. It's not about the presupposition about everything.
Because
We have the outside of the door.
you're negating the very first action. If you don't open a drawer, you'll never find money.
Yeah.
Well.
But say with the previous one, that was what was it even?
It might be easier to put it like this. If D is true, then money is true. If not D is true, then not money is true.
Which is not correct.
But
Yeah, I don't think
but in
that's-
formal logic, that's how it works. Like
But it can be wrong, like formal logic can be false.
within the form of the thing, that's
That would be.
Is
But
that-
you're right,
yeah.
but I'm
Right.
trying to find the right. Well, I think I just like seeing this too. This is part of it's exciting to me. But no, you're right. You can't take a negation of the antecedent and use it to affirm a negation of the consequent.
You're trying to go down a one-way street the wrong way.
Yeah, essentially. So that is correct. I just feel like it's easier it's not easier, but it's important to see people catch it.
Isn't that the inverse thing though?
Modus tollens?
Maybe. It's been a long time since I've taken this stuff.
Yeah. So that would look more like if D, then
Oh, that's right, because it switches
Money.
around.
no money,
Yeah.
right? Therefore, then you can conclude that he didn't open the
Yeah,
drawer.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the correct form.
Yeah, I was backwards in my head.
Because I'm seeing cohesion
Like
and
pretty face.
a little and less cohesion. So, do you want to try and explain it?
I think it just takes certain verbiage, or certain vocabulary I don't have. Okay, so no.
Okay.
Opening drawers.
So, it can be inferred that if he opens a drawer, or well, we know, right? If that happens, then somebody finds money, right? What this is trying to say, and sometimes it helps to just write the whole thing out. He didn't open the drawer. Therefore, no money. That form, what that's taking is trying to, you're negating, right? That you're saying that this action didn't take place. That doesn't specifically exclude this outcome. Does that track?
Kind of what you were mentioning, could be somewhere else, like.
Whereas, if it's the case that you open the drawer, then you're going to find money. If you don't find money, you can infer that you didn't open the drawer. Or you can conclude to that.
Because if you open the drawer, you definitely find money.
Yeah.
Within
So-
that statement, yeah.
Right. So with the Socrates one, like, if what was it? Men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Socrates is mortal. If we were to track it like this one,
Oh, where you have the two. So that one is, like I said, so that's a formal fallacy called
Socrates
the.
is immortal, Socrates isn't
So
made.
Socrates
Yeah.
is not a man, you still don't know if he's
It doesn't,
mortal or
yeah,
not.
yeah, but if you say Socrates isn't mortal, you at least know he's not a man.
What I did there was called the fallacy of the of an unevenly distributed middle, which is just technical hogwash for what we explained earlier. And this is what's called affirming the consequent, right? Your antecedent and your consequent. Is that the right one? Yeah. This is an argument form called, well, so you have modus ponens, modus tollens. I don't remember the Latin for that one either. But the essence there is you can infer negation from your consequent to your antecedent. Okay, so those are the general symbols. Those are a lot of the things you'd see if you dove into formal logic. Modus ponens, modus tollens, all of these are what are called syllogisms. Syllogisms are two statements and a conclusion. There are many kinds. I'm just going to dive into the first three. And then, do you guys want to play a game?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think so far? Is it neat? Tricky?
It was a lot easier over the course of the semester.
This is a lot, and I'm skipping through a lot, and this is kind of a crash course.
I had logic in 7th grade at Faith Christian, and I always was like, are they just trying to teach us this to like prove that Jesus is real, or like, I don't understand.
Always suspect.
So that's part of the game.
The skeptic, yes.
Every example had to do with Jesus's existence.
Well, our book was written by 2 homeschooled Christians.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, they weren't that forthright with Jesus, but it felt like there might have been some hints.
Yeah. I felt like this was a lot easier after having taken calculus because it follows a lot of like similar laws to calculus equations. But
Never took.
Yeah.
Part of
I was
what,
thinking the
so for
symbols
example, like
every
today I
time.
have to go do
Well, a
some
lot of
tests
them
on
are
the
same,
count.
but
And for me, those kinds of structured forms, I can say, well,
Yeah,
if
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I see this, then X, Y, Z. And I can kind of deduce down from there. Like, I don't need to infer or guess, essentially. I have a whole manual, and I do have external knowledge, but that's helping me deduce down to what
Reduce your
the
variables,
problem is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how art works too.
And so, how do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, like right now, it's like, oh, well, that's not working, so therefore, it's not working.
That's a really good syllogism.
But you like trial and error, and then you make up your own truths, and then, well, if this is true, then
Mm-hmm.
you know, if this color doesn't lay over that color, then it must not lay over this. I don't know.
No, I
Maybe-
mean, you're developing a system that works, right?
Yeah.
Through experience, in this case. But you're making these conditionals. Well, if I use red over blue, then this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Given that I'm using X materials on whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we did if P, then Q, P, therefore
What are you
Q.
working on, Jordan? Is it a cat?
It is an owl that my friend bought me, and I'm making it Gustav Klimt
Yeah, I
themed.
love this stuff. Yeah, that's
Love
cool.
it.
P. So let's do.
Did you do the gold leaf or was
Oh,
there?
say
did
what?
Did you do the gold leaf or was that already?
It's actually all in this pen.
Oh, okay, good. That's awesome.
She said, oh, and we have it on camera.
Yeah.
What was that?
He was taking the picture because of, did you get consent? And he's like, oh, I will after.
No, I don't care.
So what we did with Socrates was just called like a categorical syllogism. So that's 1, 2 statements, then a conclusion. And these are usually all, none, or some statements. Right? well, all men are mortal is a statement. Socrates being a man is a statement. Or all men are mortal. I don't know. Some men have beards. Therefore, some men who are mortal have beards.
Or Socrates may have a beard.
Right, yeah. Some men, yeah. All men are mortal, some men are named Socrates, some men who are mortal are named Socrates.
Right.
That's it. That's a categorical syllogism. You're making large claims about an entire group in some fashion. I'm not saying that either of your claims need to say all three of these things. It can say all, none, any mixture of the two. Or sorry, of the three. Okay. Does that make sense? A hypothetical syllogism. Again, syllogisms just have 1, 2, and your conclusion. So, any guesses as to what a hypothetical syllogism is?
You're assuming something?
Right. It's conditional.
Mm-hmm.
The initial statement is conditional.
Essentially, if A, then B. If B, then C. Therefore, if A, then
Let's see.
If Jesus Christ then evolution isn't real.
Yeah, keep going.
evolution isn't real, then we should all be praying really hard. Yeah, hypothetical, pretty simple. It's those if-then statements. So if you ever see 1, 2 conclusion and if-thens where they're connected like this, you have this middle. That's a hypothetical syllogism. Last one I'll do is a disjunctive syllogism. Any ideas there?
Is that a not statement? Or exclusive statement?
Yeah, it's an exclusive, or well, it's it's the wedge, right?
Yeah.
So either I buy Gus coffee, or he breaks into my car. I bought Gus coffee, right?
So he doesn't break into your car.
Right.
But there could be other reasons why he'd break into your car.
Right.
There could be, but it's not within the antecedent statement.
So those are just some common forms that those pronouns, those pronouns. There's a lot more, but I don't want to monopolize all the time. And if you guys want to keep doing this, I'd be glad to actually sit down and play some more fun games. There's a lot more forms. There's different things you can do. I might in a couple weeks do a longer crash course on formal logic, but I just wanted to take today to contrast last week a little bit. And even last week was mostly the fallacies. We didn't really get into the practice of it. And we can totally do that too. Yeah.
So the V symbol says that one is true, but not both. One could be true.
Either, yeah. So
One
it's that either
Yeah, one
or. Yeah, either I get him coffee or he breaks into my car.
But they both can't be true.
But not, yeah. So if G is present, if I got him coffee, then he won't break, then this didn't happen, or it's not there. So you can add that negating factor. So therefore, not B, essentially. Cool. You guys want to play a game?
Sure.
Okay.